What's up, guys? This is Nick from Arch City Poker, and in today's video, going to be continuing the Let's Talk PLO series with today's topic covering vulnerable nuttish hands on the flop from out of position. So a little bit longer of a title or a topic title there, but I'll try to shorten it in the I guess in the description section. But anyway, so this is for you, Bill. I think you requested this about a week ago, but I went on vacation, so sorry, but I'm just getting to it now. But yeah, these types of hands, these vulnerable nuttish hands, so basically hands that are nuttish on the flop that have no redraws. And the last two videos in the Let's Talk PLO series, those will have a lot to do with what I talk about in today's video. So go back and watch the last couple videos in the Let's Talk PLO series, and I think all this kind of wraps together really well. But getting into these hands, there are three types in my opinion. So basically the bare nut straight with, obviously if I say bare, then no redraw. So bare nut straight, bare middle set, and bare bottom set. These three hands, I think a lot of players misplay on the flop when there's a lot of money left behind, especially, like a lot of novice players that are coming from no limit hold'em where, if you're flopping sets in no limit, you flop the straight. It doesn't really matter how much money is left behind, you're getting it in. And if you're beat somehow with the sets by top set, that's just going to be a cooler. And that's just how it's going to be. But in PLO, it's just so much more likely with all the money, when there's a lot of money left behind and you're getting in stacks on the flop, it's much more likely that your opponent's going to have either top set or a hand like a rat plus flush draw, which you're pretty much flipping against or maybe even a little bit worse. So a core concept of PLO is when there's a lot of money left behind and you have a hand like bare middle or bare bottom set, you do not want to stack off on the flop because it's going to be a huge mistake. Like I said, you're at best flipping and you are at worst absolutely crushed and drawing to like quads pretty much. So you want to play these hands more cautiously, more passively. You want to throw them into your check calling range from out of position. And yes, in PLO, your opponents are often going to have a lot of equity, a lot of outs, but it's just going to be more profitable to play the hand more passively. And it's a good thing too because it strengthens your check calling range. When you check raise all your sets plus pretty much on the flop, it leaves your check calling range really weak. And against good players, that's going to be a mistake. You're going to be very unbalanced. They're going to be able to barrel you off of your equity all the time when you just check call. If you're always check raising like top 2 plus or sets plus. So yeah, you want to check call these hands, and on the turn, it'll often be there will be spots where you're definitely going to want to check raise or maybe even lead sometimes. There will also be spots where you'll want to check call again. And I can't really get into all those specifically because it would take way too long. There's way too many scenarios, but generally if you pick up some kind of redraw, especially a nut redraw on the turn, then it's probably okay to get it in with not as much money left behind because now it's just a 2-street game and there was money that went in on the flop but not stacks. So yeah, on the flop specifically from out of position, I would check call these hands more often when the SPR is something like 5 plus. When there's more than one pot size bet left, you generally probably don't want to stack off. Now, obviously, if you have a player that'll get it in much lighter, if he's much more loose and aggressive, then you can start to get in middle set, especially middle set, and not, I wouldn't say as much bottom set, but you can get in these sets versus really loose players profitably with more middling SPRs. But in general, that's going to be a rare exception. I would say definitely play these more passively. Now, as far as the bare nut straight, and especially with players coming from no limit hold'em, they'll say, well, I have the nuts currently. Why would I not just want to get it in? Am I not playing too passively? No, because if there's a lot of money left behind and you have the bare nut straight with no redraw, it's very likely that your opponent can have the very same exact straight. But if they have like a backdoor flush draw that you don't have, or if they have an immediate redraw, like a 2-pair, like if they have 2-pair or set, so like a boat redraw, you're in a really rough spot because you're getting free rolled. And again, you're at best 50-50 or possibly losing your stack, and you're going to be dominated in that sense. So be mindful of how much money is left behind and be mindful of the board texture. One thing that I will point out real quick, which I've mentioned in, I think, one of my latest PLO videos, is that board texture matters a little bit. So like sets are more abundant on Broadway heavy textures, like high card textures, because players play really shitty like king king and queen queen and jack jack way more often than they'll play a disconnected terrible like 8-8 hand or like 7-7. So on these like 10 high flops, 8 high, 6 high, sets won't be as abundant. And so if you have middle set on those types of flop textures, you don't have to worry about domination as much. You're going to be up more against like more pair plus draw hands and more combo draws. So if the SPR is more around like 5, 6, 7, then I think you can probably start thinking about getting it in with middle set on the flop if you want, especially if you have a really tough opponent in position on you to play tough against them. And I mentioned this in my recorded session PLO video. You sometimes want to have some non-nutty hands, but in general, as a default, if you don't know the player, if the SPR is above 4, if there's more than a pot size bet left, you're going to want to be check calling these vulnerable nuttish hands on the flop. It'll strengthen your check calling range, and you'll be much more profitable getting it in on the turn or river. So if you guys have any questions or comments about this topic, go ahead and let me know as always. Until next time, this is Nick from Arch City Poker. Take care.